to the latest episode of The Altar, where we got Yimra, we got Ben, we got all of my personalities. And what are we talking about today, boys? Because this is one of the few times I gave you some advance notification. And Ben, if you're gonna vape, turn your head away. We got you're a bastard. You're
ASMR. There's a handsome man harassing you with his mouth.
So what we're doing today is we're going to talk about psyops, right? Psychological operations. Because I made some posts on Tumblr, recently saying that that the two-party system is the greatest psyop America's ever pulled off or whatever. And I'm like, you know what, let's really look into that, because I believed it when I typed it out. And today at lunch, I was pulling numbers from the 2000, every presidential election starting in 2000. And funny enough, when I was doing that, the fucking UPS guy comes in, and I was talking to him some weeks back, where I was like, oh yeah, dude, I'm I'm an anarchist, and he kind of gave me like a look, and I'm like, no, anarcho-capitalist, bro, psyops out there. But then when he came in today, I'm like, oh yeah, doing it for my looking up numbers on my lunch break for my podcast. He's like, you have a podcast? And I took it as that he was kind of interested in listening, but it could have been that he was gonna be like, wow, what a loser. But I was like, no, dude, you don't want to listen to this. Trust me. You're good. So today we are going to talk about the greatest psyop ever in America, and that is the two-party. We live in a two-party system, and what inspired this really was that I always believed it was that someone did the 2016 election and said if the nobody voted section won, then we would have a third party, because the people that didn't vote in each state outnumbered the people that did. So I was like, okay, it's interesting. Let's see how far back that can go with relevance. And basically from 2000 to 2016, every time, if we assumed that everyone who didn't vote decided to vote libertarian, we could have libertarian senators or presidents. Would that change anything? I don't know. Yeah, and then no shade in the chat. Yeah, I've had a new camera for weeks since Father's Day. So
what a fake fan over here, huh?
Yeah. You see her
I'm kidding.
all the time. But yeah. Get a little sip. Yeah, Yimmer in the comments. So
I heard that glug glug glug.
Glug glug glug. Yeah, my mic's good like that.
You just gag on it. You fuck.
So let me pull up, because I'm gonna pull up the electoral maps here that I made. Because what I did is I went through obviously the presidential elections, and I made fake electoral maps to if you're assuming that everyone who didn't vote decided to say fuck it and voted libertarian, here's what you would get. And please, for the love of God, tell me I put this in my drive. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I got it. All right, so the 2000 election, right? The Democrats would have had 144 electoral votes. Republicans would have had 86, and we would have had 308. So libertarians could have won. Well, actually, we could just focus on anarchy then. We voted anarchy at that point. And then, so in 2004, right, Democrats had 80 electoral votes, Republicans had 64, and we had 394. All right, so these are going off the numbers. And for everyone curious, the audio version, when this is released, I'm going to have a cleaned up Excel spreadsheet with the maps so you could look at the data yourself. I've done all the hard work for you. All the hard work no one's going to care about, because they're not going to change anything.
Like a true Mexican.
It's like a true, hey, look you puto.
Whoa,
hey,
what the fuck?
So, 2008, the election, Democrats, 179 electoral votes, Republicans, 20, and Libertarians would have won again, 339. What's the Green Party, Now, because the thing with these maps, it's progressively getting more sad for each party, but more so sad for the Republicans. Like the Republicans, by this metric, to me at least, look like they're losing the most. Which is, yeah, why not?
Which is on par for the Republicans.
Yeah. So this one is, let's say 2012, yeah. 2012, Democrats would have had 58 electoral votes, and we could have had 480. And then 2016, which is, we had Trump, we had Hillary, the two worst, literally the worst people you could have run for the, like, to be America's next top presidential warmonger. The Democrats would have had 38 electoral votes, Republicans 0. We could have had 500. Now this is where it gets interesting. Wow. The 2020 election, because I skipped ahead. I was doing it in chronological order with the data sets, but I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna jump ahead to 2020 just to see how it went. This map is totally fucking different. Like, there's way more states populated for Democrats and Republicans than any other fucking year from the 2000 to now. Democrats would have had 252 electoral votes. Republicans would have had 133, and Libertarians would have had 153. So I'm like, what the fuck? Right? So at first,
that is really off.
Yeah, so what I was laughing about, I'm like, that just proves voter fraud, right? Which it doesn't. Now, there's a couple things with the data that I'm going to correct that I don't have right now because I didn't have time, because I do have a job sometimes at work. Is that nice. I didn't factor in like Libertarian, Green Party, or whatever random party, because it's usually like, I think depending on the state, it was like a 0.1% or something. So it's like super not important, but for the sake of argument later, I'll put that in. But for right now, just imagine that they don't exist. Just like they do now. They don't exist. They're not real. What's the Libertarian? I don't know. So what I did, because I'm curious, like, what the fuck happened? Well, we know, what happened between 2016 and 2020, right? COVID happened. That's the only logical explanation, unless you want
allegedly.
Allegedly happened. Unless you want to be stupid and think voter fraud actually happened, which I'm like, I think in some areas there was probably some slight voter fraud, but not enough to mean anything anywhere, right? That's my opinion.
Voter fraud? When has that ever happened before in American history? Literally,
ever. I may have committed some light voter fraud.
Mm-hmm.
I may have tried to ejaculate into the voting booth and was forcibly removed from the building that I was at.
Your rights are infringed upon.
Yeah, I should have the right to come into the ballot box to really get my political opinions across.
You know, it'd be funny if
your religion
is
that I come on ballots.
Could you imagine if that we had majority of people in each state not on ballots, and then Cummings was the 2024 president-elect? Crazy.
Wait, who would be the Cummings president, though? I mean, I know the answer.
Literally, all the ballots with nut on them would be combined into a paper mache person. And then every time they're like, "Hey, can you sign this bill into law?" It doesn't respond.
And just the worst sounds you've ever
No, then we get Jenny, front of the show, to do some Wiccan. Is she Wiccan? I don't know. She's not a witch. She's like a Wiccan or something, to like cast a spell to bring. But she's a nun. She can't get like within 50 feet of Cummings, so it's fine. But No Shay in the chat brings up a good point, because he's like, at this point, it's surprising a lot of people that are fed up with both parties don't just say, let's vote this third party person in just to see what happens. My thought process on that is because of the psyop, is that most of these people believe we're in a two-party system. That's what they've been told. Like, the propaganda's real. Like, I used to believe it. So what they're doing is since we're in a two-party system, quote unquote, is that these people just say, fuck it, it's not even worth it to go out if we don't have a chance. So if you have millions of people believe this that stay home throughout the country, then yeah, you're never going to get that option. But if you start, because I'm hoping more people start talking about this, and like we can get every time you hear someone say, "Oh, we live in a two-party system," like, "Oh, actually, we don't. We do it." The two-party system's a state of mind, I guess, is one of the best ways to say it. But if like I'm thinking it's not going to happen by 2024. It probably won't even happen in our lifetimes. But if you start planting the seeds, like fucking talk politics with people, and don't plant those seeds. I know Ben's thinking about something. Planting some seed. Planting the seeds of that we are not in a two-party system. That's what the elites want you to think in order for you either vote for them or to stay home. So we need to start talking to people about that we're not in a two-party system. Now, the other part of this data that I thought was interesting, because I'd like have it broken down by state, like the voter eligible population, and who all got votes, and what the difference is for the I don't give a fuck group. But to figure out the difference for 2020, where 2020 was like, wow, like the quote unquote Libertarian Party lost a shitload. What happened? They're like, well, obviously we're talking about COVID happened, but the difference is the percent, like between, I'm just going to give a couple examples here, a couple of the first ones. So Alaska, Alabama, Arizona, right? From 2016 to 2020, Democrats gained 2.86%, 6.98%, and 7.72%, while Republicans gained 2.61%, 4.88%, almost base, add 10 to it, 5, and then 5.6%, respectively. Those two percentages together from each of those states is the same percentage loss from the Libertarian side. And that's for every state. The gains that Democrats and Republicans made in percentage points of voter turnout came directly from the quote-unquote Libertarian, or I like to call it the I don't give a fuck crowd. So the COVID shit was enough to make these people that usually sit home go to the fucking polls and vote for the major two parties. Which is interesting. I'm like, yeah, you literally need the fakest pandemic ever to get people to vote. And I think that's cute. And some of these like states are, I'm trying to look at who had the biggest gain altogether. Look at these percentages, because like one state had 23.58 was, what state was that? Sorry, bear with me. Utah. Really? Utah? That's interesting.
Excuse me? What?
Yeah, Utah had the biggest transfer from the I don't give a fuck crowd to that. And Republicans saw the most of it.
Okay.
Republicans got 13.61% of that, and Democrats got 9.97. So there was some states had some like 10%, 15%, 20% like type range beat, and other states had like nothing. I think and then I also included in this that the increase in voter eligible people, like because some states had like, well, going from like Alaska, what's he doing here? Yeah, Alaska had a 2% increase. Alaska had a 0.55% increase, which is like, yeah, like who wants to live in Alaska, right? Be real. Then like Arizona had an 8.65% increase of voters. Some states lost like less than 1%. West Virginia lost 2%. Interesting. Wait up. California gained 3%, but I'm sure by next round they're gonna lose like 10% with everybody moving. So, yeah. So there's more into that, but like it just from the numbers, from actually those numbers, it's either there was so little voter fraud that it didn't even matter because it's a fucking blip in these numbers, or every fucking state and county in America got together and made sure all the numbers are right. So, what do you think?
I don't know.
So yeah,
I think modifying cars to be more bad for the environment is a better move.
oh yeah, that would be incredibly based.
We need more V10s and V12s that are straight piped.
Sort of. I'm tired of hearing straight pipe people driving cars because some of their cars sound like shit.
Yimra, I didn't think it was possible for you to get tired of straight pipe.
Yeah, you ever wouldn't.
Straight people wanting to be having sex with me? That sounds.
Yeah, sounds kind of gay. Oh, you're top though, so it's not gay. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not gay. It's not gay if you're fucking them.
I keep forgetting about that. It's gay if you get
fucked.
So yeah, so every time we're gonna end the segment of the two-party system psyop is anytime you hear anybody say that we live in a two-party system, tell them that they're not immune to propaganda and they love to believe psyops, or the more you just simply say we don't live in a two-party system, and then show them some numbers. Tell them to go look it up. Tell them to spend an hour looking at numbers from a couple elections and to stop being stupid.
Bang their wife,
and then try also not to blow your brains out.
Yeah,
several hours willingly.
Oh man, like I was going to blow my brains out because I do not know how to use Excel. Like I only know how to use like 2 formulas, and so for 2000, I was getting ready to fucking manually input like the formulas for each cell and shit, and I'm like, there's got to be a fucking some way to do this, and there is. It's a simple, just do it for the first one, and then you can drag the whole fucking row or whatever, or column. You just grab the whole fucking column and select everything you want, and it'll repeat that formula for the whole thing, and it'll change the values as needed. I'm like, fuck yeah. So that saved like God knows how much time. Because otherwise I would just done 2016 and 2020, because like there's no way in hell it would have taken me all day at work to do that. So, and then let's see. No Shay says, do you think urbanite flight in that time period had anything to do with the changes? No, it could have been. I mean, honestly, it could have been people turning 18. I think it's the simplest, in my opinion, at least. There's probably some people moving that did whatever, but
I would say a large chunk of the people around my generation, like. I'd say probably before 2016, voting wasn't like a big deal for like the younger generation as much. Mostly older people vote. But like I remember 2016 coming around, and a lot of us 2016 is when I was turning 18. And I remember in my high school there was a whole group of people who were all hardcore like Trump supporters, like they had the red hats and everything. It was so fucking stupid and fucking gay. But like 2016 was probably the first time you'd probably see people in high school getting like legitimately very political, not in an educated way, just in a well, my parents either hate or like this party and therefore vote for their party or the other party, kind of nonsense. And I think pretty much after Trump and like the psyops of either political party trying to kind of push onto people more so, probably has affected that the younger voting base is starting to become a lot more prominent now. I mean, 2016, a lot of people definitely voted that were younger, and same with 2020. I'm sure you could look up that it has increased over time, and it's probably only getting more intense because now political discussions are like constant in a younger age group, especially with social media and everything, and all these kind of like the white knight riding on through, like, oh, here's my opinions, this is why I'm actually the best person ever, and now I need to let everybody know I'm a better person, and you're actually fucking stupid and disgusting, kind of bullshit. I think that kind of stuff is also changing the voter dynamic, because yet again, for years it's mostly an older voting base, and now you have people who are just turning 18 who will just vote pretty much with no thought process. Same as old people, to be fair, but at least old people at least learn something from like life instead of just being in a horrible school system, which would make them not like the government very much. Shocker. So I think that has an effect. Urbanite flight probably does have some kind of effect. I don't know if it's as big as, say, something like the younger generations voting more so now, and they're voting very boringly, and they're voting very much just hard red or blue. I mean, of course, you have like the communist type beat, but there's no major communist party in the U.S. unlike in other, say, European countries where there actually are like, for instance,
that's the Democrats.
Okay, but like I'm talking about like they actually are honest about themselves. Like I
Are
have a
they
friend in
though?
Portugal, and he showed me how the political parties are, and like yeah, for instance, like there's a communist party, and it gets like 6% or 4%, but it actually does still get a percentage of the vote. That's enough that it's put on a board somewhere. Meanwhile, here it's Republican, Democrat. There's a Green Party, a Libertarian Party, and those are like the only other two parties you really hear about ever. Maybe the Tea Party you'd hear about a few years back, but that was really as far as it went with any type of third party you'd actually legitimately see or hear anything about. And even then, I think they're being told now for that very reason, because they don't want any of these new voters or older people who are tired of this shit to see, oh, that's an option. It's not like yet again like European countries or other countries where there are more options. Or look at the UK where they have like technically like four different political parties that all vie for power, which it doesn't really matter because it's still the UK. So like you're gonna be fucking miserable. I mean, one base thing they do sometimes, I think the Tories shut down police stations, which is pretty fucking funny.
Incredible.
So that's I guess a plus to over there. Not that the police do anything anyways over there. They wear high vis vests and kiss men. The kissing men part's actually okay with me. So yeah, that's my actual one moment of a serious political statement for the episode. Thank you.
And we'll never have one from you again. Ben, you got something for that?
No, that was disgusting. I fucking hated
it. No, I got nothing.
Well, just interestingly enough, New York, I would think that the states that didn't see a bigger increase or a slight negative increase were the ones that like people just left the state, right? Because New York only had like a 0.5% increase in eligible voters, right?
That was me. Sorry.
Bye.
Bye. I mean, there was a big flight in New York City period. I mean, I think a good chunk of people came back, mostly because it is still one of the biggest financial sectors of the entire world. And not being in said city, and you're someone who's able to leave the city very easily on whim, like most people did. It's I don't know if the effect is really, if anything, marginal.
So I thought of something real quick. So you guys know there was an election in Russia over the past couple of days.
I heard about it.
Putin. So in this election, supposedly Putin's party won big, of course.
Oh, damn, that's crazy.
Good for him.
Yeah, right. Who saw that coming? The Biden administration put out like a fucking statement saying that they condemn the election as being illegitimate because apparently in the middle of the night, the voting count was paused and a bunch of opposition votes were added.
No way. No way.
100%. Yep. Let me go find this. Hold on. Stand by, viewers.
On a quick side note about Putin, while he does research and types into Poland or whatever the fuck he's doing.
Enhance.
Is there what?
I said enhance.
Is that there's actually a belief that Putin probably got into power and then at a certain point realized that he probably has blackmail, or he's kind of in a position where if he eventually leaves office without all that protection, he may actually be like more likely to be harmed or make his life worse. And he's kind of like between a hard rock and a bad place kind of type beat, where, well, if he isn't staying in power, then he may either die or have a very bad time, financially or otherwise. But if he keeps staying in power, he's kind of in a limelight and keeps having to, well, be a politician. But he's also a former KGB agent, or I guess
I saw a picture of him fighting a bear. I think he'll be okay.
So I mean, I don't really care, but I just wanted to bring that one theory up. I remember someone was talking about some dude from Russia. I was like, that's interesting. Maybe Putin is only mostly a terrorist, but slightly more complicated because it's how the world works. That being said, he probably should be shot like a dog in the street.
Probably. I remember some video.
I would say almost definitely, with the whole like, crimes against like the homosexual community. I'm not a big fan of gays on occasion when they don't, when they leave me on red or anything, but not like a criminal level.
Hey, get left on red by the gays.
Bro, imagine if I got left on red by a twink. I think I'd actually kill someone.
Yeah, kill the twink. He can't even fight back because he's weak. That's all twinks are weak.
Well, yeah, I mean, not really much of a fight or a competition. Yeah, 9mm does wonders to a twink. It's like shooting through a car door. It's just going through.
Oh, so story time. I was I think it was my 21st birthday. The night before, I got out and got fucking hammered. I went over to my sister's friend's house because they were having a party. So like, yeah, go over there and drink, blah blah blah. And I was parked in the driveway, and I thought it was this girl Sarah's house. I thought it was just her house. And there was like some gay guy that lived there, like a roommate or whatever. And he was cool. Like we were like, you know, talking like talking with him like all night, all that stuff. And finally it's like 4 a.m. I'm fucking obliterated. And then like but the law or ordinance or whatever of the area is like, oh, if you're parked on the street, you're gonna get a ticket. So they were like, oh, like, you know, can you like everyone can just move their car, blah blah blah. And he's like, hey man, can you move your car? I was like, yeah, just give me a second, right? And I was like going to go get my keys, and he's like, hey, can you move your car? And I'm like, I literally just fucking told you I'm gonna move my car. So I'm like pissed. And like literally 10 seconds prior. Like he didn't even get 10 seconds before he got shitty. And I'm like, I fucking am going to move it right now, you fucking massive retard. And then he was like, who do you think you're talking to right now? And he's getting like really flamboyant, and he wasn't like it before. I'm like, is this like the real you coming out right now? Like, were you putting on a show of like, not like with this like a light lisp or something? But he's like, this is my house. I'm like, oh, this is your house? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm fucking leaving, because I was gonna crash there. That's why I got so obliterated. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, yep, we're leaving. And I rolled up with like two of my buddies. I'm like, guys, we're going. And my buddy Mike's fucking shit faced too. He's like, no, dude, it's cool. Like, man, it's fine. Like, we can stay. I'm like, I am not staying in this fucking house with this fucking piece of shit. I didn't use any slurs at him. Well, I'm like, I'm fucking leaving and shit. And then so like we left. And then my sister the next day was like, what did you say to Tony? And I was like, I'm like, gonna explain the situation. She was like, yeah, like he came in and was like, your brother was really mean to me. And she was like, what did you do? Because my brother's never mean. And then I was talking to some other people because they brought it up at like the bar a couple days later, and I'm like, I was like almost about to fight him because of how shitty he was, and how granted it wouldn't have been justified because of how drunk I was. Like it wasn't like a justifiable offense like to fight him. I was gonna fight him, but I didn't know if any of his gay buddies were gonna fucking jump in on me. And she was like, "What's 10 guys versus one straight guy?" It's like, it sounds like a fair fight to me.
Wait. Oh, yo, pause. 10 gay guys and one straight guy?
Yeah.
I think I've seen this before.
Yeah. No, she yeah, right. So gay man.
Come on, you walked into that one.
I did.
You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
Yeah, full attention.
And my erection.
Yeah.
So
I'm fucking hard right now.
Super hard. No, it was like, it was super
fucking stiff.
That guy is AIDS, by the way.
A quick correction about what I said earlier, just to get this accurate. Mm-hmm. So the Biden administration, specifically the State Department, did issue a statement stating that the September 17th through 19th Duma elections, or Duma, or whatever the fuck you say, elections in the Russian Federation took place under conditions not conducive to free and fair proceedings. The AP reported that over the weekend, election monitors and opposition activists showed photos of thick, folded piles of ballots in transparent ballot boxes that were obviously put in one piece. Videos from polling surveillance cameras at polling stations showed people trying to shove multiple ballots into boxes to varying degrees of success. There was also footage from several regions of scuffles and confrontations between poll workers and election monitors trying to expose violations, which sounds kind of familiar, correct?
Which sounds like something the U.S. has done to other countries as well.
So this is where that joke came from. What I said, though, specifically was a tweet by Jack Posobiec. I don't know how to say that.
Yeah, I think so. Right.
Specifically, what he says is the Biden admin has condemned the recent Russian election due to lack of transparency, where millions of votes were suddenly added overnight that wiped out the opposition.
It's crazy how that works.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. Like, I don't know. Like, I gotta look at more numbers to make sure all the percentages make sense on the election results. Because I think I need to factor in Green Party, Libertarian, and stuff and look at it. Because I bet you there's probably a discrepancy of a couple percent somewhere in most states. I just didn't. I was a little lazy and didn't get that, but I'm sure there's like a couple percent discrepancy because there's like a 0.02% discrepancy in a couple states that I did. But I mean, that's something to the people listening to the audio. you should have the accurate stuff in the show notes when it's up. And then everyone that's watching right now, I'll have it in the description when I post it live on Wednesday, because I'm going to have to take my extra time to do that. And then what else? Oh, you know what we can do? Let's do a quick other psyops we like. What, anyone have any psyops they would like to say that they like, minus the two-party system, of course?
A great example was, you remember when Captain Marvel came out? Let's not talk about like the fact the movie was cringe. We all know that was a fact. Where ads surrounding that time for the U.S. military were specifically bringing up the term superhero and purposely showing more women, specifically more so in the Air Force than anything else, was just, of course, intentional timing, so that younger viewers would see that and say, "Okay, I'm gonna join the military." It's the same thing as I'm now losing the thought. Fuck, that absence really didn't
Here
do
we
a
go.
good job on that.
I'll take over. I'll take over for you. That was a psyop to get more women on board with joining the armed forces, so they could pass a law saying that women have to sign up for the draft too, so they could bring the draft back. How's that sound?
Yeah, I mean, also the concept of like, my favorite thing was I'm sure you guys all, when you guys were like 18 whatever, you got like something in the mail that said like, oh, that like thing you have to do the paperwork for, they like agreeing to like be like the selective service, whatever the fuck, like in the future if there's a draft. I remember getting discharged and then like getting that, and I was like looking at it, I was like, you guys just kicked me out, I'm not fucking doing shit with this.
Yeah,
I just literally threw it out on the spot. I was like, well, you kicked me out, so I don't you don't want me anyway, so I'm not going back.
So another story time I got talking about the selective services is when my wife moved out here, well, girlfriend at the time, she got her ID done at the DMV. They fucked up and put her as male on her driver's license, which...
Wait a minute. It's kind of fucked up, dude. What if you don't know like what he's going through, okay? Don't be a dick.
Yeah, well, just go fuck yourself. Yeah, you know what? No one likes you. No one likes you. I'm just kidding. I like you a little bit.
Don't be
more
mean
than
to me
Ben.
anyway right now.
So because she got a letter from Selective Services like a couple weeks later saying like, oh, like you never signed up for the Selective Services and you're supposed to like do it. And she's like, what the fuck? And I was like, you're not supposed to do that unless you're a male, like whatever. And we pulled out her driver's license, like, yeah, gender male. She was so like, I was fucking laughing. I was laughing about because I thought it was like the funniest thing, just because I hate the government. I'm like, of course the government would be fucking stupid and do something like this. She's like, it's not funny. I don't find it funny. She wasn't crying about it, but like she was like all of a sudden she's like, don't laugh. I'm like, well, I'm going to, because this just fits my narrative of the government being piss poor. But we got it sorted out. Like, oh yeah, no, you don't have to sign up. I'm like, yet. Wait for it. I'll get you. Oh, I like that. The Y2K psyop. That was good.
Oh yeah, and then that ended up getting fixed by like a handful of people doing extremely hard work to like make sure that computers didn't take a shit.
Yeah, it got fixed just in time.
Like it was like a legitimate issue that like a lot of computers were not built to actually handle like the concept of time, and it would actually just shit on a bunch of computers. But it was fixed by the hard work and dedication of like, I don't remember how many people it was, but it was like an absurdly low number of people that pretty much saved us from pretty much having a computer blackout. But it was also something that was fixable, clearly, because I could look up a live leak of some Chinese working at his head stomped in by a fucking steel beam to this day.
Yeah, all they had to do was just make it from 2 digits to 4. Like, how hard is that? I'm not an IT guy, but it's got to be pretty easy.
Well, no, that's why I'm assuming it's probably because just anything with computers that may actually lead to a big problem, it always ends up being like a handful of people that have to do some crazy shit to fix it.
I took computer programming in high school, so I'm pretty sure the fix was if time equals 00, then make chill end if. I think it's end if. Very simple. Like, that's like a couple lines of code. You're done. Like, didn't take that long. But I wonder if it was really hyped up. Like, now that I think about it, because I'm like, I was young, like, dude, what, 2000.
I think back in the day was definitely hyped up because people don't talk about it anymore because nothing ever happened. It's like the 2012 thing. But I'm sure if you watch stuff from like the late 90s, like Y2K is ultimately brought up like as a passing thing in a lot of like just even like bullshit media. Like I think like even The Simpsons of all things and Family Guy talk about Y2K as like a plot device.
Dude, my mom
like
was
it was going to like
out.
literally like borderline like retarded content. I'd imagine it was probably taken somewhat seriously to some extent. I know it sounds weird, but like if Family Guy's bringing it up, it's like it's in the social construct, and sadly, I hate that it's a litmus test for that, but that's what it is.
So,
my face is also on fucking fire again. Jesus
good for
Christ.
you. Sailor psyops. Well, obviously, asymptomatic spread is another psyop that I like. Psyop.
Dude, let's go with current COVID case count and unvaccinated hospitalization count in general. Current psyop.
Dude, fucking Chris Rock, man. That shit is hysterical. Chris Rock is vaccinated, and he's saying, trust me, you don't want this. So apparently, he's not having a good time. And he says, make sure to get vaccinated. Everyone get vaccinated. Like, bro.
You know what's even funnier is my stepsister got COVID, and like she's in the same building as me. Same as during New Year's.
Stepsister, huh?
I'm just fucking find Christ, all right, guy.
I'm Catholic, so it's okay.
Find Jesus, find God. I don't know. Find something, bro. Relax.
Catholics bang step siblings all the time.
Okay, well, we're Roman Catholic. If we sin, we're gonna go to hell anyways.
So anyways, your stepsister got COVID.
So she got COVID. My brother got some fucking horrible lung thing, but he took both his shots. They don't know if it was COVID. I don't think they said it was COVID, so it was something separate. And meanwhile, I'm just here vibing, same as I did last year when I was working in the parts department. Not last year, maybe a little before last year. Whenever like it was like a couple months before like everything like went to shit, working in the parts department and like people are getting sick and all this shit with no idea. I'm just kind of sitting here vibing, like booling. New Year's, all my boys get COVID. I'm like sharing jewels and like my vape and kissing the homeboys during New Year's. No COVID,
of course.
Nothing. Because I'm built different. And it's like, okay, but it's just like, what if you have antibodies, you're fine. Probably 98% of the time. I'm not a doctor.
98% of the time. Not a doctor.
Don't quote me on that because it's definitely a wrong percentage number. But could somebody theoretically carry something, get no symptoms, and then give it to somebody else? Depending on the illness, hey, that's definitely a thing. I mean, especially like anything that involves like your spit, breath, whatever. Sure, but also if you take the vaccine and it doesn't work, and someone asymptomatically gives it to you, and not even someone who's like actually feeling like the brunt of the force, like what the fuck's going on with the vaccine? It's just like I hate talking about the vaccine stuff because it's just been talked to death, and everyone who talks about it,
we've like, talked it to death. So we've
talked to death, and I'm so tired of hearing. I just literally don't care. I just don't care anymore. Like it's been said and done and beaten to the fucking ground. But like there is like a couple, like there's good points from each side where it's just like, all right, well, not really, but you know what I mean. Where it's just like, okay,
like
so basically the vaccine does nothing for most people, is what you're saying. But the people who don't take it, who are usually fine, say like me, are giving it to you somehow. But then the vaccine should work, right? Like my immune system is clearly going to only give you weak and or a viral load that is so small, it'd be insignificant compared to the amount you would take from a syringe. Because the viral load you are given from a vaccine is more than you would get from someone accidentally coughing you, if I remember correctly. I could be totally fucking wrong. But some fucking person will probably correct me at some point.
Yeah, we should.
And
we really need to do this GoFundMe for a microphone for you, because you kept like you were getting choppy. You were getting choppy as shit at that segment.
It's probably because this thing was like kind of flopping around as I was talking.
Yeah, but you like that.
Use my hands too much.
I bet you like it when it flops around.
I like Watchmen in the chat is like,
yeah, titty.
He's like, if I got COVID, I'd just get healthier. And then Doge's like Sigma mindset.
Yeah,
based.
Sigma Grind said, I simply don't get sick, and when I do, I simply get over it.
Yeah, very easy.
It's like when I was told I have a tumor on my neck, and I was like, all right, well, is it like a cancer? It's like, no. I was like, okay, well, like, we'll take care of it eventually. And like, well, yeah, but we need to also do plastic surgery, like, once it's replaced. I was like, why would you need to do plastic surgery on, like, just removing, like, a lump on my neck that you could barely even see on camera? I mean, you can kind of see it, but you can't tell. And like, oh, well, I have scarring. It's like, oh my god, scar looks cool, dude. I have, like, a shit ton all over me. Like, what am I, fucking gay? Plastic surgery is for queers. Unless you suffered a serious injury, then it's totally
fine. Yeah, No Shay's acknowledged that. He's like, Yim's been cutting out for quite a while this stream, and that's I let it go normally because he's not saying anything important. But like now,
today's an exception.
Is an exception.
But I think it's yet again. I think it's where I start talking like from this far, or that starts banging around like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like when then, like, my hands start doing motions, it starts flopping all over the place like a big old sack of duty.
So we let's actually talk about, let's get into the segment of That's Not the Argument You Think It Is. Which I have something. Dude, that's not the argument you think it is, dumbass bitch. Alright, so today is this one was brought to me by my brother, the Flat Earther.
Wait, based?
Based.
Wait, no. So this should be actually a good point, is what you're saying.
Well, what it was is I was just scrolling Facebook, and I saw he commented on some like Joe Biden post, like on Facebook, where Joe Biden said, well, his staffer had said, or whatever, fucking some underling, because it wasn't Joe Biden said it. Joe Biden's drooling on a couch somewhere because he doesn't need to be seen, so he doesn't need to be getting injected with anything. He's sleeping. He's taking a little nappy pill.
It's like JFK, but like 8 times worse.
Yeah.
Use. At least JFK got
JFK is still alive compared to Joe Biden. All right.
JFK probably, the amount of drugs he's on, I wouldn't be shocked if he actually was alive for like 3 years after, accidentally.
So Joe Biden said, well, it's an image saying a teacher shouldn't pay a higher tax rate than a hedge fund manager. And he's like, I can't believe this has to be said, but a teacher shouldn't pay a higher tax rate than a hedge fund manager. I'm like, yeah, he's right. Teachers should pay a lower tax rate. Because that obviously, clearly it wasn't the argument. He wants to raise taxes on hedge fund managers. It's like, why would we let you squander more money? We need to take more money away from you and call it a day. So, because, well, the thing with taxing teachers is kind of stupid to me, because it's already taxed money that the teachers are getting, public school teachers. So by right,
but we don't tax a thing that's taxed as being taxed by being taxed. Then how are we going to get our tax money?
Exactly.
And if you don't tax the tax, then you won't be able to tax the tax that taxes the tax.
Unironically, that's basically how that works. In the simplest.
It's exactly how that works.
Like,
so
the whole, this person should be taxed more than this person being taxed. One, technically, they already are, but that means nothing because, not to sound like a fucking commie, but usually the higher end, more richer people, say a hedge fund manager, has somebody who can pretty much find every loophole with the IRS and then fucking not pay almost any taxes. Simply what I'm saying is get a better accountant.
Yeah.
Well, because I haven't had to pay taxes. The government owes me. Mostly because the government does owe me money half the fucking time anyways, but get a better accountant. Let them find the fucking loopholes or the actual problems that you have in your tax problems. Like
or
me.
As the blessed and beloved Paris Hilton says, stop being poor.
Yeah, stop being poor.
I mean,
yeah. That
rest in peace to Typhus, who's
based
who needs to not be paying taxes. God bless that kid. On a side note.
So the other not an argument thing was, I decided the other day to start an argument on Facebook. I didn't start it, but I finished it poorly. So what?
You decided to have a political argument on Facebook. Yeah.
Well, no, because
was it 2009?
No, it was because my buddy, he randomly he just posts memes most of the time, right? Like random memes, like cats, whatever, blah blah. But he posted something
based
about critical thinking, I like how people if you're automatically against authorities and subjects, you're not critically thinking. And I was like, I'm automatically against government officials, and then I get my valid reasons later. Like again, like my baseline is to automatically be against them, but then someone else said like, what about flip flopping the flip floppers? And I was like, yeah, fucking Fauci's the king flip flopper, right? Like he said.
Yeah, you know that AIDS epidemic pretty fucking well.
Yeah. Well, no,
Cunt.
Because what I said was that I'm like, Fauci said that masks were basically useless, so he could hoard the masks for the government, and then later admitted that, oh yeah, look, yeah, that's what we we lied about masks in the beginning, so we could hoard. I'm like, that's like
ignoring the fact that a viral disease like this one has been reputed to be masks would not be the most useful thing. Honestly, any type of disease that comes from your lungs, you're probably better off just wearing a respirator and not being close to people. Like a mask can only do so much. I could vape through. I don't have any masks. Wait, actually, I think I might actually have a mask.
You can vape through lots of things.
Reminds me of that GIF where some dude takes a vape hit and he like exhales it through his cloth mask and it like comes out in the shape of a face.
Good for him.
Block the company's
like,
logo.
If you showed this
quick.
to a 6th century peasant, their heads would explode.
Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. I noticed that none of the vape cloud came out of your mask, so
that's actually a pretty good one. I'm not gonna lie. That's actually a pretty good. It's not like your cheap, shitty medical ones are meant to not do much outside of get like just direct shit in your face.
So to finish this off is some woman came back at me with she's like, that's kind of it's misleading what you're saying. I'm like in my head as I'm reading this, I'm like, are you a fucking Snopes writer? It's misleading. What's false is what you're trying to take from it. What's true is what you just said. But she was like, no, like they didn't know that much about the virus in the beginning, and that's why they said what they did about masks, and like and what they were trying also trying to make sure there wasn't a mask shortage so the healthcare workers could get it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, like I don't care. Like I'm like, I can name I'm like you're wrong because he literally
take a piss, be right back.
I'm like thank you. I'm like, he literally lied about masks so he could hoard it for healthcare workers, as you said. I'm like, I could list a bunch of other things he fucking lied about, but I'm not, because I don't care. And why I didn't care was because I'm like, I'm not going to change your mind in my head, right? So I'm like, Fauci and Trump can burn in hell. And I made it because I'm like, she's coming at me like I'm a Republican, right? She's like, because I think one of the things was like, y'all like want to vilify Fauci for like no reason. And she's like, oh, you care enough to post misinformation though. And then I gotta say, a little triggered. I was like, the only misinformation I said was that it was the government hoarding masks when it was actually healthcare workers, which I corrected. So we're going back and forth, and I'm like, how do you not fucking I posted like a Rutgers article that said the quote from March where Fauci was like, oh yeah, like it might block a couple droplets, but it really isn't, masks aren't really effective from preventing anything, blah 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 blah. And then in that same article, it had a couple months later where he's like, yeah, in the beginning of the pandemic, we tried to downplay mask use so we could fucking get it for healthcare workers. And I'm like, he lied. Like, it's simple as that. And she was like, you lack critical thinking. Like, you're just latching on to something. What she was getting at, which later after a bunch of back and forth bullshit, I figured out she thought I was saying that he knew about asymptomatic spread. Right? Like that it was apparently worse. And like, I'm like, okay, that's not my argument that I'm making. Like, what I'm making is he lied about mask use so he could give it to healthcare workers. She's like, well, I don't think that equates to lying. I'm like, if that's what you believe, this is
actually, it's gaslighting.
I'm like, this is an agree to disagree situation.
Keep girl boss.
Yeah, I'm like, this is an agree to disagree situation. Like at this point, I'm like, I don't know how you can read it any other way. So I just backed out. I'm like, I don't know. But she was like saying like I don't critical think and shit. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't need to critically think. this time. I'm like, it's right there on the fucking page. I'm like, and what makes this worse, and where I get into like, this is not the argument you think it is that with the asymptomatic aspect, she's like, well, they didn't know about the asymptomatic spread. Okay, that vindicates my he was lying aspect, because they're saying that, well, we tried to downplay the efficacy of masks, and if anyone, I don't care what anyone's mask policy is, what they think, how effective it is, just saying what that was happened. If we downplayed mask efficacy so he could hoard it for healthcare workers, and then said, yeah, we downplayed it for the healthcare workers, but if we knew about asymptomatic spread, we wouldn't have said that. That's fucking lying. It's very simple. Like, you adding the asymptomatic part makes it worse for you, and you're too fucking stupid to see it. Not the argument you think it is. And then also on top of that, if the fucking head of the Fauci's the head of this government fucking health agency, if he is saying right off the bat, you're telling me that he thought in March that masks did nothing. He's the head of the health agency. His whole life has allegedly been fucking dedicated to this. You're telling me he didn't think that there might have been some use to it? A better use to it? And you're buying that shit? Who was the one not critically thinking? Not the argument you think it is. You're just making it either seem that he's fucking dumb, or you're dumb, or he's able to play you because you're just like, take the dick out of your mouth. I don't know.
What, right now?
No, you can leave mine in,
you're
bro.
good.
Okay.
Yeah, mine and Ben's will stay in.
I am fucking shot right now.
Oh, that was the other thing, is that what was the news article today, that COVID has killed as many people as the Spanish flu.
Yeah, if you count the gunshot deaths that were also COVID in New York City.
Motorcycle deaths,
sure.
organ failures.
Here's the problem. They didn't adjust for inflation. So technically, COVID is still less.
Adjusting for sonic inflation porn?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Nice.
So technically, COVID has not killed as many people as Spanish flu because of inflation. So get fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what's going on in the chat here. Wasn't there an academic paper Fauci wrote about masks being harmful? Maybe. I'll look into it.
I heard about that, like, supposedly also with like the Spanish flu pandemic, like a bunch of people also died from like bacterial pneumonia that was caused by masks.
Yep, that thing is.
Yeah, this
Jenny
is also
just said
in
that.
1919. So I have the older one, is what I remember.
Oh yeah! Wow, interesting. In regards to Spanish flu and how many deaths were probably from bacterial pneumonia. Interesting, dude. That's what. That's one of the. I'm like, I won't get vaccinated for this shit, dude. Because when my wife basically forced me to get a flu shot, and I was like, fine, if it'll make you happy, I'll get it. I got a flu shot. 2 weeks later, I fucking started feeling sick, and then a week or like, and I couldn't fucking eat anything. And then I had a fucking like stroke at the hospital, and I couldn't talk, and I was freaking out, but I couldn't freak out because I couldn't move properly. And I found like I was in the hospital for like a fucking week, and I found out that like, yeah, you had like, they had to do a spinal tap on me, and I found out like, oh yeah, you have bacterial meningitis. I'm like, what do you do for that? It's like, well, ride it out. I'm like, oh, that's what I'm doing, baby. That's what I'm doing.
Already on it. What else you got?
But I'm like,
I don't really have a choice on that one, bud.
And I was like, how the fuck did I get bacterial meningitis? I'm like, I don't fucking go anywhere. I'm like, dude, like I go to work, I come home, I ask my wife to have sex with me. She says no. I'm like, okay, well, per the contract. She's like, I don't give a shit about the contract. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go take care of the kids.
I don't like this joke, even though it's funny.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't like that one.
No, I was kidding.
Move on.
Well, no, dude, you know what's funny with it was the other night. So like me and my wife are getting in at it, right? And I'm like almost there. The kid wakes up, the newborn, right? So I'm like, then I wake up my wife. I'm like, hey, you gotta go feed the baby. Anyone pick up on that?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Are we just talking about bad medical experiences now?
Yeah, let's.
In a manner.
Yeah, let's do.
I can talk about mine. Mine are always funny.
You can give us a bad medical because we need to close up here soon. So that was my bad medical experience. It's like I won't get a flu shot. I won't get anything because of that reaction to a fucking flu shot. It's probably because I never got a flu shot in my life. Like my body is natural. Like I think the vaccines.
I was gonna say like a reaction
designed.
to a flu shot, feeling like a bit shitty for like a day or two, like completely normal because just like getting on, you take a very large amount of load, dead or like half weakened, whatever. So it's kind of expected, but to that extent, it's like your body probably just going to the fucking shock. Like, oh shit, dude, there's a lot of way to use this shit.
I think I lost like 15 or 20 pounds because I couldn't eat for like a month. Like even soup and crackers was hard to keep down.
Like, but for me, I've only been to hospital for myself, probably like ever like once in my life when I was like a small child with like asthma, but that's beside the point. So I haven't needed to go to the hospital for like anything else. Like I've had other issues and like shit, and I've just dealt with it.
This is dope.
But like the most recent one would be like there's a few examples. I'll try to find good ones. But I basically went to urgent care because I broke my hand. Superman punching someone like a fucking idiot.
Good for you.
He was a scumbag, so I don't really give a shit. I went to urgent care, and originally I just had like my right hand was purple, and it hurt to move, but like not enough that I was like, oh, I gotta go do something about it. Like, oh, I like punch people and kind of fuck my hand up a little bit, and usually just like pop a socket in or just kind of massage it and like find the place for it to pop in and call it a day. But it was purple, and then my father looked at it, and he's been somewhat in the medical field at one point or another. And he saw, I was like, that's broken. You need to go to see a doctor. So I went to urgent care, and the urgent care people were like, yeah, that's broken. They did like an X-ray, and like the space between was like this. It was like absurdly oversized in my room between the break here. They call it the boxer's break, which means I fucked up. Clearly, I fucked up. And I was like, okay, so like give me a cast or whatever. And then they put a cast on me, and eventually they told me, like, this cast will just do good for now, but you need to go to like a proper, like, this is urgent care, like we're just kind of fixing you like more so for the emergency sake, so you can avoid going to the emergency room, because it wasn't really an emergency, but it was enough of an emergency to get it fixed sooner rather than later. And I eventually go to this like doctor for like bones and shit, just because like, well, we looked up some people who could make bones better. It was like a guy who actually helps the Jets football team, like for any type of breaks. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm not into sports, but that's fucking sick. I go to him, he's like, yeah, if you like wore this cast any longer, you would have like permanent damage. How soon did they tell you to like get this done? It's like, yeah, in like a month or so. And I was like, and they're like, no, don't never listen to the urgent care people. I was like, okay. It's like, listen, like you've already like caused some like slightly permanent damage to your hand from like wearing this cast, let alone
based.
I was like, okay, I don't care. I can still move my hand fine. But like, then I had to wear another cast, and then like I had to wear one I was supposed to wear for a certain amount of time, the whole thing. And then like now, like it's kind of hard to see with this lighting. If I do this, maybe you can see like how this knuckle kind of just digs in a lot deeper than like, for instance, this.
Yeah.
But like the pinky bone like goes in real deep, and there's still like a section of cartilage, and like it edges out.
The and dangers of masturbation.
The dangers of vigorous masturbation. Or the time where the doctors thought I had a tumor in the frontal lobe of my brain, but ended up just being lesions, which was very fun.
Oh, just lesions? Okay, cool.
Just lesions from traumatic brain injury. Or even better was when they gave me ADHD medication, which made me have manic episodes.
Oh, wow.
Which is just more of a psychiatric medication industry is a fucking cancer on this world, because being a teenager in high school and not wanting to sit still in classes for 45 minutes or an hour or whatever, for 6 to 8 hours for weeks on end is a bit silly. And I played sports in middle school and did some track in high school, and I was a pretty active kid. So they're like, oh no, you have ADHD. And then they did that. And then I started having like more mental problems because of the ADHD medication.
Damn.
Which caused manic episodes, which is another sign that the psychiatric medical industry is a fucking cancer on this earth sometimes, because I was lucky enough to have a therapist and psychiatrist that actually wanted to get me off of my medication and help me, because I had some other issues unrelated. And like shit like that, it's just like,
Quick thing for No Shay in the chat. Yeah. I am not super sleepy. My thing is I was adjusting screens and I kept looking up at this bright ass light from the webcam and it was making me going, oh shit. So I'm getting ready to end the podcast. That's why. So we get everything.
What I'm basically saying is the mental industry be pretty fucked up, but the ones for like mental illness and like treating any type of problem that involves like your brain is like really bad, because I can't tell you how many times I talk to people who like take ADHD medication and like now they have like super like balanced issues. Like I would find like antidepressants, antipsychotics, all this kind of shit. I was able to get off of them, thankfully, and for the most part, I'm doing pretty all right. You know, minus a little bit of this, and this is public very much, quite frankly, but whatever. And shit like that is just like, okay, well, we have a problem. So like the opioid epidemic still is a problem, but we're aware of it at least. This one, like, it makes also an insane amount of money, but like you can also hide behind it better because no one's addicted to this shit necessarily. But you get them on it and they feel like shit after, but it's not the same thing as addictive. It's just your body getting used to it. It sounds like it's addictive. It probably technically is, but like how your body deals with those kind of medications is somewhat different than how it's treated, let's say, like opioids or painkillers. And it's like, I wonder who's making a lot of money off of this and why are you getting a younger population of people, and why the government's allowing this to happen. Not that the government wouldn't necessarily help it, but I just feel like there's something else going on with that deeper. And it's like,
yeah, you know what? Let's make it a podcast episode.
Where we talk about, let's get somebody on who works in the mental illness industry. I don't mean that like a bad way. I just mean like someone who's like
I could probably find somebody, but all right.
I know a nurse who might qualify.
Doctor. A nurse in what?
Or him.
A nurse who may qualify.
Woman, male.
We'll ask a few questions about that one later, I guess.
All right. Well, you know what? Reach out. Let's get it going. But for tonight, we're gonna end it. I'd like to thank everyone who came out in the chat tonight. Ben, Yimra, throw out. Psychiatry is a psyop. We'll get into that. Good stuff.
I don't know about that completely, but all right.
Yeah. technically, no, maybe. But
I mean, if you're technical, it's a psyop, but like a psyop that can fix you.
Yeah, but
like legitimately fix you in some ways.
Yeah, we'll see.
Psychiatric meds are a psyop.
Oh shit! Time to come up. All right, everybody, have a good night.